There is a specific mathematical pattern that has destroyed 3 global superpowers in the last 500 years. It destroyed the Spanish Empire in the 1600s. It destroyed the British Empire in the 1900s. And right now, in 2025, your country is following that same pattern step for step. You feel it, don't you? The feeling that no matter how hard you work, the finish line keeps moving further away. You think the system is broken. You think this inflation, this debt, this struggle to survive is a malfunction. You are wrong. This isn't a bug. This is the system working exactly as designed. 3 empires made the same mistake. Yours is about to be the 4th. By the end of this video, you won't just understand history. You will know exactly how much time is left on the clock. Every empire in history had one fatal flaw in common. They all believe with absolute certainty, this time is different. They were all wrong. If you zoom out, far enough that the noise of today's news disappears. You don't see chaos. You see a clock. History shows us a brutal, repetitive timeline of who holds a reserve currency, the dominant money that the rest of the world uses. Portugal held it from 1450 to 1530. Then Spain took over until 1640. Then the Netherlands until 1720. France had its turn until 1815. Then Great Britain ruled the financial world for over a century until 1920. And since then, it has been the United States and the dollar. Notice the pattern? The average lifespan of a global currency reserve status is roughly 94 to 100 years. The U.S. dollar has been dominant for over 100 years. We are statistically living on borrowed time. But why do they fall? It's not just war. It's a psychological trap called exorbitant privilege. Take Spain in the 16th century. King Philip II was the richest man on earth. His ships were bringing in mountains of silver and gold from the Americas. He thought his wealth was infinite. So what did he do? He stopped producing things. He started buying things. He fought wars he couldn't afford. He built palaces to massage his ego. He borrowed money from foreign bankers, promising to pay them back with the next shipment of gold. He didn't realize that money isn't wealth. Production is wealth. When the gold shipments slowed down, the illusion vanished. The richest empire on earth defaulted on its debt not once, not twice, but 4 times. Every empire has the same excuse. We are too big to fail. Our technology is superior. Our military is untouchable. They change the flag. They change the currency. But the cycle never changes. You are seeing the exact same symptoms today. A country that consumes more than it produces. A government that borrows to pay its bills. And a population that senses something is wrong, but is told by the experts to keep spending. Ask yourself, does the economic news you hear today sound like a solution, or does it sound like an excuse? But to understand how this ends for you, we have to understand how it begins. It doesn't start with a crash. It starts with a feeling of invincibility, just like it did in Rome. 2,000 years ago, Rome discovered a magic trick. The emperors realized they could spend money they didn't have, and for a while, nobody noticed. For centuries, the Roman economy ran on the denarius. It was a U.S. dollar of the ancient world, a coin made of 95% pure silver. If you held a denarius, you held actual value. But then the expansion stopped. The loot from conquered lands dried up. But the costs, the massive army, the public projects, the bread and circuses to keep the people happy, those costs kept growing. So the government made a choice. Instead of cutting spending or raising taxes, which would make the people angry, they chose the invisible tax. They started clipping the coins. They gathered the silver, melted it down, mixed in cheap base metals like copper, and minted more coins with less silver in them. Under Emperor Nero, the silver content dropped to 90%. Under Marcus Aurelius, it hit 75%. By the time the empire was collapsing, the silver denarius contained only 5% silver. It was just a piece of copper washed in a thin layer of silver that rubbed off on your fingers. Imagine you're a Roman soldier. You spent 20 years bleeding for the empire. You were promised a pension that would buy you a nice farm to retire on. You held up your end of the bargain. But when you finally open your pouch to pay for that farm, the merchant laughs at you. He demands 3 bags of coins, not one. Why? Because the market knew what the government was hiding. The money was worthless. The soldier didn't lose his money. He lost his purchasing power. He was robbed, not by a thief in the night, but by the very government he served. This is the first lock of the trap. Debasement. It is a polite word for theft. When a government prints money to pay its bills, they are stealing value directly from your savings account. They are diluting your labor. If you think this sounds like ancient history, pull up a chart of the U.S. dollar's purchasing power since 1971. It looks exactly like the silver content of the denarius. They stole the future to pay for the present, and the bill always comes due. Rome took centuries to collapse because news traveled at the speed of a horse. But in our modern world, thanks to technology, we can speed up this process terrifically. Let's look at the moment the trap was set for you. Let's look at 1971. In 1971, the emergency became permanent, and the trap was officially locked. It was a Sunday evening. President Richard Nixon interrupted the popular show Bonanza to make an announcement. He told the American public that he was temporarily suspending convertibility of the U.S. dollar into gold. That was a lie. Before that moment, every dollar was a claimed check on a specific amount of gold stored in a vault. It was a contract. After that moment, the dollar became just paper, or deeper still, just a promise from politicians. This was the moment money died and currency was born. Money is a store of value. It keeps your energy over time. Currency is just a medium of exchange. It leaks energy over time. Look at the data. Before 1971, if productivity went up, wages went up. They moved together. A single factory worker with a high school diploma could buy a home, own a car, and support a wife and 3 kids. That wasn't a fantasy. That was the math of a sound money system. But look at the chart after 1971. Productivity kept going up. We got computers, the internet, AI. We are more efficient than ever. But wages? They flatlined. The house didn't get 30 times better. The money you used to buy it got 30 times weaker. They broke the link between your hard work and your reward. This shift changed the physics of your financial reality. Before 1971, you could save your way to wealth. You put money in the bank. It earned interest. It held its value. Today, if you leave cash in the bank, you are slowly bleeding to death. The system forces you to become a gambler, to put your money into the stock market or real estate just to keep up. This isn't a conspiracy. This is documented history. The system was re-engineered to punish savers and reward debtors. Think about your parents' savings account. Now think about yours. Why does saving money feel like a losing game today? Because it is. But this chaos isn't random. It follows a strict blueprint. Now that you see the history, let's look at the framework. Because this cycle always follows 6 specific stages. You don't need a PhD in economics to see the future. You just need to know what time it is. History shows us that every reserve currency empire moves through the exact same 6 stages. It is a cycle as predictable as the seasons. Good money. A country starts with little debt and hard money. Gold, silver, or a currency backed by hard assets. Meritocracy rules. You eat what you kill. Expansion. Because the money is sound, people save and invest. Factories open. Infrastructure is built. The country produces more than it consumes. It becomes rich. Peak prosperity. This is the top. But here's the catch. Because the country is so rich, labor becomes expensive. So they stop producing things and start outsourcing to poorer countries. They switch from being a factory economy to a financial economy. They stop making cars and start making banking products. The debt trap. This is a turning point. Growth slows down, but the people and the government still want the expensive lifestyle of stage 3. So how do they pay for it? They borrow. Private debt explodes. Public debt explodes. The financial sector becomes massive, sucking the talent out of engineering and science. Debasement. Eventually, The debt becomes so big it can never be paid back. The government has two choices. One, default and go bankrupt, which causes a depression. Or two, print money to pay the bills. Politicians always choose option two. They print. They devalue the currency. This is where inflation stops being temporary and becomes structural. Loss of faith and reset. People realize their money is dying. They rush to buy hard assets, gold, land, foreign currencies. Internal conflict explodes. The empire retreats, and a new power takes over. Stage 4 is when the trap is set. Stage 5 is when it springs shut. Keep these 6 stages in your mind, because in the next section, we are going to place the United States of 2025 directly onto this map. So, look out your window. Read the headlines. Where do you think we are? If you look at the debt clock, the inflation, and the social division, we are not in stage 3 anymore. We aren't even in stage 4. Based on every metric available, math, not opinion, we are deep inside stage 5. Here's the reality. The United States is currently over $35 trillion in debt. That number is so big the human brain cannot comprehend it. But here is a number that matters. Interest. For the first time in history, the U.S. government is spending more money just to pay the interest on its debt than it spends on the entire national defense. Read that again. We are spending more to pay yesterday's bankers than to defend today's borders. This is a death spiral. The government cannot tax you enough to pay this off. If they taxed every billionaire 100% of their wealth, it wouldn't fund the government for 6 months. So, they have only one tool left. The same tool Rome used. The same tool Weimar Germany used. They print. They call it quantitative easing. They call it liquidity injections. But you know what it really is? It is counterfeiting. Legalized counterfeiting. This is why your grocery bill doubled. It's not that the cows became twice as valuable. It's not that the eggs became gold. It's that the paper in your pocket became half as worthless. When they print trillions to bail out banks or fund foreign wars, that money floods the system. It dilutes your hard work. You work the same hours. You provide the same value. But the ruler they use to measure your effort is shrinking every single day. This isn't a bug in the system. The system is working exactly as designed, to inflate away the government's debt at your expense. They get to spend the money first, while it still has value. By the time it trickles down to your paycheck, the prices have already risen to meet it. You are the sponge soaking up their inflation. But here's the thing that usually gets hidden. This system doesn't just happen. It was built, and it benefits a very specific group of people who never have to worry about the price of eggs. Here's the hardest truth of all. Wealth is rarely destroyed. It is merely transferred. While you are losing purchasing power, someone else is gaining it. In the 18th century, a French banker named Richard Cantillon discovered a secret mechanism. He realized that when new money is created, it matters who gets it first. This is called the Cantillon Effect. When the government prints $1 trillion, they don't drop it from helicopters into your backyard. They give it to the banks, the large corporations, and the financial elite. These architects get the money first. They get while it is still fresh, before prices have gone up. And what do? They buy assets. They buy houses, stocks, and companies. Their buying pressure pushes the prices of those assets up. They get richer. By the time that new money circulates through the economy and finally reaches your paycheck, the damage is done. The prices of gas, rent, and food have already risen to reflect the new money supply. They get the gold. You get the inflation. They buy the house for cheap. You pay the rent for life. And to keep you in line, they build a perfect control mechanism. The credit score. Think about it. If a major bank makes a bad bet and loses billions, the government bails them out. No questions asked. Too big to fail. But if you miss a credit card payment because you lost your job, your score drops. Your interest rates go up. You are flagged as high risk. The system privatizes their profits and socializes their losses. These architects, the bankers, the lobbyists, the asset managers, they aren't evil cartoon villains. They're simply rational players in a rigged game that know that in stage 5, holding cash is suicide. So they use the system's cheap debt to buy up the real world, leaving you with a paper currency that is burning up in your pocket. They profit either way. You bear all the risk. So we know the history. We know the mechanism. But what does this actually look like when it crashes into your living room? It looks like the three things you worry about most: your house, your job, and your retirement. We often think the collapse of an empire looks like a Hollywood movie: explosions, riots, fire in the streets. But for 99% of people, the collapse is much quieter, and it is much more painful. It looks like sitting at your kitchen table, realizing that even with two incomes, you cannot afford the same house your parents bought on one income. It looks like the grocery bill that quietly doubled, forcing you to put items back on the shelf. This is how the pattern shows up in your life. The great squeeze. Because the currency is losing value, stage 5, real assets, houses, land, stocks, skyrocket in price. This turns a house from a place to live into a speculative asset. You aren't just bidding against other families anymore. You are bidding against multi-billion-dollar investment funds that are buying up entire neighborhoods to rent them back to you forever. They are turning America into a nation of renters. Feudalism didn't disappear. It just got a new logo. And what about your future? You were told to save. Put your money in the bank. They said, be responsible. But in a system based on debt and inflation, savers are losers. If inflation is 7% and your bank pays you 0.5%, you are not saving. You are paying the government a 6.5% tax on your life energy every single year. You did everything right. You followed the rules. But the system punished you for it, while bailing out the gamblers who broke the rules. This is why jobs feel so unstable. Why pensions are disappearing. Why everyone has a side hustle. You are working harder than any generation in history, yet you own less. I need you to hear this. If you are struggling right now, if you feel like you are drowning, it is not your fault. You are not lazy. You are not bad with money. You are simply swimming upstream against a current that was designed to wash you away. You are living in the late stages of a cycle that has crushed every society that came before it. You aren't failing. The game is rigged against you. So, if the system is a trap, if the money is broken, if the cycle is inevitable, and if you were born inside this cage, is there any way out? Actually, yes, but it requires you to stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like the architects. So here's the good news. Seeing the trap is the first step to escaping it. The moment you realize the game is rigged, you stop playing by their rules and you start playing by your own. You cannot stop an empire from collapsing. You cannot stop the Federal Reserve from printing money. You cannot change the cycle. But you can choose where you stand when the wave hits. The escape isn't about running away to the woods. It's about a mental shift. It is shifting from being a currency saver to being an asset owner. Stop trusting the paper in your wallet to hold your value. It is designed to leak. Start trusting things that cannot be printed. Real land, real commodities, real skills, real community. They can print the dollar, but they cannot print your knowledge, and they cannot print your resilience. Don't wait for the government to save you. In stage 5, the government is trying to save itself from you. The system is designed to prioritize corporate survival over your family survival. So, you must become the CEO of your own household. You must build your own ark. This isn't about fear. It's about freedom. When you understand the pattern, the headline stops scaring you. You stop asking, why is this happening? And you start saying, I know exactly what to do next. If this video helped you see the bars of the cage, if it helped you make sense of the chaos, then do one thing for me. Share this with one person you care about. The system relies on our ignorance to keep running. Waking someone up is the only way to break the chain. And if you are still watching, comment below with, I see it. Let the algorithm know that we are paying attention. Now, the obvious question is, if the dollar is dying, what survives? In the next video, we will look at the specific assets that have survived every single empire collapse in the last 500 years. The lifeboats of history. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You do not want to miss that one. History is written by the victors, but the future belongs to those who prepare.